Okay, this is the first part of the kanji section of the lesson. Since there are over 5,000 letters in this language, not really sure how many. In fact, I don't think anyone knows the exact number. But because there are so many, teaching and creating a whole system where you teach all of them will be a little bit difficult. So I decided to break them up into sections. Basically into different categories. In other words, I'm breaking it down to its elements. Anyway, in this series, we'll start with the numbers and a little bit of simple math. The first number we're going to learn is 0. There are two ways you can pronounce this number. One is... Oh wait, I almost spelled it wrong. Zero, which is basically the English pronunciation with a Japanese accent. Okay, and the other pronunciation is lei. There's actually a kanji symbol for this, but it's usually written in katakana instead. However, if you wanted to write it in kanji, it would be like this. Okay, now for the number 1. There are lots of ways you can pronounce this. You can pronounce it 1, which is basically the English pronunciation with a Japanese accent. Now the other pronunciation, of course, is with the kanji symbol. This is probably the easiest kanji symbol to write because it's only one line. But one thing that's not simple about it is that it has more than one pronunciation. Those pronunciations are ichi, itsu, if you put the letter tsu behind this kanji symbol, it becomes hitotsu, and I'm putting the letter tsu in parentheses to point out that this letter has to be behind it to get this pronunciation. However, it can also be pronounced hito with other symbols behind it as well. But the ones that you can use to get this pronunciation are pretty specific. And as complicated as this may seem at first, it actually gets easier with practice because at some point you'll develop a skill where you can basically guess which pronunciation to use. One thing that you should know is that the number 1 sounds different when the symbol for day is behind it. The symbol for day, it can be pronounced nichi or jitsu. It depends on which symbol is in front of or behind it. Despite these pronunciations, when they're together, they create the word, let's see, tsuitachi. Now, tsuitachi means the first day of a month. For example, the first day of January or the 1st of February. It's pronounced tsuitachi when the 1 is in front of the symbol for day, even though neither of these symbols have these pronunciations. I'm not really sure exactly how that works. One book says that this pronunciation is irregular, meaning it doesn't follow the standard pattern, but it didn't explain why or why this happens. I guess it's just something you'll have to live with. This is the minus sign in math, of course. There are two ways you can pronounce it. I don't think it matters which one you use. One of them is minus, which is the same as pronounced in English but with an accent. And the other one is hiku. The equal sign in math can either be pronounced equal or or wa. Now you can say 1 minus 1 equals 0. You can either say ichi minus ichi equaled 0, or you could say ichi hiku ichi wa 0. And of course, the 0 can either be pronounced 0 or rei. The decimal point is called the shōsu ten, and it's pronounced 10. For example, 1.1 would be pronounced ich ten ichi. Fractions are called bunsu, and this is how they work in Japanese. First, it gets a while to get used to, but the first number that's pronounced in a fraction in Japanese is the one that's on the bottom. In this case, it's 1. And this line actually gets pronounced too. It's pronounced as bunno. And then after that, the number that's on top is pronounced. For example, if we were to use 1/3, but of course first you have to know how 3 is pronounced. 3 is pronounced san. So if we were using 1/3, the fraction would be pronounced san bunno ichi. Now it's time to cover the number 2, but this lesson is actually getting longer than I expected, so from now on I'm only going to be doing one number at a time until we get through all the numbers. 2 can either be pronounced like tsu, which is basically the English pronunciation with an accent, or it can be pronounced by its real pronunciation. And this is the kanji symbol for the word 2. It's basically just 2 lines. Pretty easy to remember. What's harder to remember is its pronunciations, because like the number 1, there's multiple ones. There's a little less pronunciations than the number 1, but 2, the pronunciations for 2 are ni, hutatsu, when the letter 2 is behind it, like this, or just huta when certain letters are behind it. Here's an example of a time where you would pronounce the number 2 in English. PS2, it means PS2, in other words, PlayStation 2. The numbers in PlayStation are always pronounced in the English pronunciation, but with an accent. The percent symbol in Japanese is pronounced pasento. And it's actually pretty simple. For example, if you had 1%, you just pronounce 1%. Pretty easy. Not that hard to remember. The plus sign in Japanese can either be pronounced plus, which is the English pronunciation with an accent, or tas. For example, if you wanted to say 1 plus 1 equals 2, you could either say 1 plus 1 equaled 2, or you could say 1 tas 1 wa 2. To pronounce this fraction, it would be 2 分の1. However, you usually don't pronounce this fraction like that. You usually pronounce it like this. Hanbun, which means 1/2. Now we'll learn how to say the second day of a month. Just like the number 1, the number 2 in front of the symbol for day does not follow the normal pattern. Oh wait, hold on. It's pronounced, hold on. This letter is really hard for me to write. It's pronounced hutsuka. Unlike the other math symbols, this one cannot be pronounced in English. The dividing symbol is pronounced as, and this is the only way you can pronounce it, waru. For example, if I wanted to say 2 divided by 2 equals 1, I would say ni waru ni wa ichi. I'm not really sure if the time symbol can be pronounced in English, but the most normal way that I've heard it pronounced is kakeru. For example, if I wanted to say 1 times 1 equals 1, I would say 1 kakeru 1 wa 1. And of course later I'll teach you how to pronounce algebraic expressions as well, because obviously in algebra you don't use the times symbol because you might confuse it with the letter X. A fraction of 1 whole is called Zenbu, which means 1 whole or all or everything or the whole thing.